Hi, everyone. Welcome to Both Sides of the Story, PBS 12's high school debate tournament. I'm your host, Alan Janae from CBS 4. Thank you for joining us. Well, tonight we feature the first semifinal round of our consolation bracket. This is a new feature in this year's tournament, which gives you a chance to see all of our students in action more often. On tonight's show, students from East High School in Denver and Holy Family High School in Broomfield compete for a spot in this year's consolation bracket championship. So let's meet our participants. First up is Talia Hart, a senior at East High School. Here's Talia.
My name is Talia Hart, and I'm a senior at East High School. As a little kid, I was always really curious and shy and just always wanting to spend time reading. And I was also super close with my little brother, who now does debate with me, so that's something we get to share with each other. I decided to do debate because I've always been super interested in politics and government, but I never really had a way to share that interest. And my coach and teacher freshman year, Mr. Kaplan, really encouraged me to share my ideas, and he got me into doing debate. My favorite moment in debate was going to the debate national tournament the summer after my sophomore year, because I really got to dive into the details of antitrust law, which is an interesting field of law, but I also got to really bond with my partner and with my coaches.
Talia is so thoughtful. She works incredibly hard. She has stepped up and has been mentoring a bunch of the freshmen and has really helped our program grow because she is so personable and excited about her events.
Next up, meet Michael Dolph, a senior at Holy Family High School in Broomfield. Let's hear his story.
My name is Michael Dolph. I am a senior at Holy Family High School. Debates taught me to work hard at something, and it's really taught me how to love doing what you do, not just doing it because it's something to do or because it's fun, but doing it because I love that thing. It's taught me passion, I think.
Michael is a very charismatic, funny kid who has really, speech and debate has been one of the best things for him to draw out what's best in Michael. He, this year, is one of our captains. He's showing tremendous leadership. He is really looking to make Holy Family debate really successful. And he's just a profoundly curious, hardworking kid. So glad to have him on our team.
Okay, now you've met two of the best high school debaters in our state. Also joining us, our special panel of experts who will offer their analysis of our debate tonight. They are Dominic Dezzutti, host of Colorado Decides, the election debate series produced in conjunction with CBS 4. And he is joined by Omar Montgomery, the president of NAACP Aurora, Colorado, and a former mayoral candidate in Aurora. All right, it is time to set the ground rules now. Each side will present their case, ask each other questions, and then have a chance to offer rebuttals. When it is finished, we'll go to our illustrious panel for their own questions, and we'll find out whom they felt offered the best arguments. So let's get started. Here's the issue up for debate today. It is this: should Colorado establish a paid family leave program paid into by employees and employers? So we'll have our coin flip right now, and we'll get things underway. Talia, I'm going to let you make the call. What do you like?
Tails.
Tails it is. Okay, Talia, what would you like? Would you like pro or negative?
Pro.
Okay, Talia as the proponent goes first, then Michael follows. Talia as proponent during this round. The floor is now yours for 3 minutes. Go right ahead.
I affirm that Colorado should establish a paid family leave program because such a program will support gender equality. First and foremost, paid family leave programs alleviate inequality in the workforce. In New York, Rhode Island, California, and New Jersey, 4 of the states that currently have paid family leave, women with children are as likely to be employed as women without children. In these states, paid family leave laws have fully closed the employment gap for mothers. This is important for Colorado, as the Society for Human Resource Management reports that 1/3 of mothers drop out of the workforce within a year of giving birth because they cannot afford to take leave. Sadly, the majority of mothers who are forced to drop out of the workforce because they don't have access to paid leave are women of color. Paid family leave programs not only increase the number of mothers who are able to continue work, but increase wages for working mothers. According to Rutgers University, women who report taking paid leaves are 54% more likely to see wage increases than women who don't have that option and must take unpaid leave. In addition, paid family leave in Colorado would allow more fathers to take paternity leave. Unfortunately, Colorado's current law forces women to be primary caregivers, as dads often cannot take even unpaid leave. The National Partnership for Women and Families reports that only 7% of workplaces currently offer paid paternity leave in Colorado. And this lack of paternity leave options requires new dads who wish to support their infants to risk unemployment. Paternity leave has massive benefits, such as increased attainment for children and lower rates of divorce. It's important that we open the possibility for men to take paternity leave, and allowing for a paid leave system will do so, as in New York, the paid family leave program more than doubled the number of fathers who took paternity leave each year. Finally, a paid family leave program would promote gender equality through benefiting victims of domestic violence. Currently, the Colorado legislature reports that domestic violence victims get very few days of unpaid leave a year to deal with injuries. Paid family leave is a solution that would allow domestic violence victims to take 14 times the paid leave they currently get, as Colorado's proposed ballot initiative defines dealing with domestic violence as under the umbrella of paid family leave. Further, a study in Australia by the National Library of Medicine found that by alleviating financial stress and incentivizing both parents' involvement with children, paid family leave programs have led to 58% fewer reported incidents of domestic violence amongst parents, which could help the 41 women who are killed in the state of Colorado each year because of issues with parenting over domestic violence. In conclusion, the benefits of paid family leave on gender equality mean that such a program is warranted in our state.
Talia, thank you very much. Talia is the proponent. Michael has the negative. Michael, 2 minutes right now for questions and cross-examination. Go ahead.
Awesome. Talia, my first question for you is, does every single family use paid medical leave?
Not every single family will use paid medical leave, but it's important that every single family knows that they have the option, not only if something like pregnancy were to happen, but if a family member got cancer or got sick, or if domestic violence became an issue.
Awesome. So if every single family doesn't use paid family medical leave, would every single family have to contribute into the fund?
So every single family, with an important stipulation that I'll detail in just a second, would. The average salary in Colorado is around $35,000 a year. So the average employer or employee would pay about $158 from their salary. That's really insignificant. And then small businesses with less than 10 employees, those employers and employees are exempt from paying.
Okay, awesome. My question just for you is that if not every single family is going to be using this paid medical leave, but we're going to be taxing every single Colorado worker, how can we justify in the middle of a pandemic taking money away from these families, especially for something that won't be implemented right now?
That's a great question, and I would have a few responses. The first is, why do things like life insurance or health insurance or home insurance exist? Not every family will use them, but they're important to have. Employees are going to be paying less than 1% of their salary. So it's a really small amount to pay to allow women, particularly women of color, domestic violence victims, and every individual who might have a medical emergency to have the opportunity for leave. And then on the issue of coronavirus, this won't even go into place until 2023, and so that's really not a topical issue. The two things don't interrelate.
Okay, awesome. So then why exactly does this program need to be paid for by employers in addition to employees?
Can you say that again?
Why do employers also have the burden for paying into a paid medical leave program and not just employees?
So employees pay half of it, so they pay that other $150, and again, really small businesses get to opt out. So it's employers are providing a better service for their employees, and employees have this benefit, and so they're both taking this pretty small burden.
All right, we'll have to end the questions right there. We have Talia Hart and we have Michael Dolph on the question of paid family leave. Michael, the floor is now yours. 3 minutes to state your case in the negative. Go ahead.
Coloradans experiencing major life events meriting paid leave should get it. However, a government-run program is not the way to achieve these important protections. Thus, I negate that Colorado should establish a paid family medical leave program, or PFML, paid for by employers and employees. I would like to offer two core reasons why we should not establish a PFML. The first is that now, during a massive recession, is not the appropriate time to reduce the take-home pay of Colorado families and burden the state with another costly program. Second is that businesses should not be responsible for funding their employees' leave in addition to the burden of temporarily filling their job vacancy. First, a paid family medical leave program seems like it guarantees a great deal of benefits, but there are some significant costs of such a program for both the state and its citizens. The Denver Post reports that the program will cost $1.2 billion a year. While this number is staggering when taken in conjunction with the fact that Colorado is facing a $3.3 billion shortfall for the fiscal year of 2021, it is impossible. Even more problematic is the fact that a PFML tax would dig into the wages of every single Coloradan. Individual workers will have new payroll tax deducted from their wages. At a time when many are struggling to simply keep a roof over their head, reducing someone's take-home pay is bad policy. Quote, the Nigel study found that 1 in 3 families earning between $50,000 and $100,000 depend on their next paycheck to keep their heads above water, end quote, Pesci 2020. To place that number into perspective, roughly 70% of Colorado households have an annual income of less than $100,000. These families are dependent upon every single dollar they earn, and we cannot justify taking away their household income for a program they may or may not use. Now is not the time to take away money from families fighting to survive in our devastated economy. Secondly, a PFML places a disproportionate burden on Colorado employers. While we might all agree that Colorado workers should enjoy payroll protection in the case of emergency or major life events, businesses will suffer because of the double cost of the program. First, employers have to pay into a PFML program by contributing a per employee tax. Then, when an employee qualifies for paid leave, an employer must also fill the vacancy of an employee on leave. If a teacher has to be gone for 12 weeks, someone has to cover their classes. If an auto mechanic cannot be at work, the shop owner still has to have someone there to repair engines. The cost will fall on businesses, large and small. We all agree the right thing to do for Colorado workers is to protect their pay and job if they need temporary leave of absence. However, this program is the wrong way to do it at the worst possible time for Colorado. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. The big question today, should Colorado establish a paid family leave program paid into by employees and employers? Talia, 2 minutes for questions to Michael. Go ahead.
Okay, Michael, so my first question is on your point about families who really need to live paycheck to paycheck. Is it worse for them to lose around $100 on each paycheck, or worse for them to completely miss a paycheck because they or their family members get sick?
Right. So again, because there's no guarantee that that's actually going to happen to them, I would say it's worse for them to consistently lose a portion of their paycheck.
Okay. And you think that it's not important for people to have a guarantee that if they get cancer or if they have an unexpected pregnancy or something like that, that they're going to be okay?
So that's absolutely not what I said at all. I actually think that a form of a paid family medical leave program should be implemented in Colorado, but it shouldn't be employee and employer paid. It should only be paid into by the employee.
Okay. And is that what we have right now? Because we're kind of just debating the adoption of this or not.
Right. So what we're actually debating is the second part of the resolution, which says that the PFML should be paid into by employees and employers. The negative stance is that it should only be paid into by employees, like it is in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, not Rhode Island, but DC, Washington, DC.
It is actually in Rhode Island. But just on this idea about businesses, you kind of make an argument about why it's bad for employers to pay. Do you have any statistics on what happens in the states that you just mentioned, California, Rhode Island, Delaware, et cetera, that have paid family leave for business?
I don't have any exact statistics, but it's not that hard to imagine what happens when you have to pay $100. Not $100. Let's say it's $45 per employee per pay period. When you have 150 employees, that starts to add up quick.
Okay. And just one more question. Who are the people and the businesses who currently aren't providing paid leave?
So it's going to be small businesses because they ultimately they can't afford to right now, because doing so would push them under being non-profitable, just like it would be to tax them.
All right, we're going to have to wrap up this round of questions right there. As the affirmative, Talia, you now have 2 minutes for a rebuttal. Go ahead.
As a whole, you're going to see that for low-income workers and for small businesses and lower-income businesses, it's really beneficial to implement this program. But just as a quick note, he basically says that we should implement a program not currently existing where only employers pay in. That's not really what we're debating. We're debating Colorado's ballot initiative. It passes or it doesn't, so look at the benefits of it passing. And then on this idea about coronavirus, first, this program won't go into place until 2023. That's 3 years for economic recovery. If we have to wait longer than that, he's basically saying no action should be ever taken after a recession, because we'd have to wait forever for it to get better. But then we're going to help small businesses with this, and those are the people who are hurt the most from coronavirus. Currently, 7 out of 10 small businesses support paid family leave programs in Colorado, and the Center for American Progress reports that small businesses have a trouble finding employees because employees seek out larger firms where they can have paid leave. And so when small businesses, particularly those that don't even have to pay into the system because they have less than 10 employees, will be able to pay a very small cost to have their employees want to work for them more. That means they have better employees and more productivity. And then just a quick note on this idea about the overall cost for businesses. It's actually going to cost less. If a business wants to keep a really skilled employee who gets pregnant or who gets cancer, they're going to have to pay a lot more than just $100 a paycheck. Or $100 a year, which is what it is. They're going to have to pay that entire employee's salary. So we're actually lowering the burden on small businesses, just like insurance. And my opponent doesn't dispute that life insurance and home insurance and health insurance are things that should exist. This is exactly what that is. But for employers or employees and employers like small business owners and women of color and fathers and domestic violence victims who really need this the most. So overall, we're going to see a program that helps small businesses and helps these employees because of the low costs and the benefits to small businesses who will attract better employees.
Talia Hart from East High School, thank you very much. The question of the day today: should Colorado establish a paid family leave program paid into by employees and employers? Michael, you now have 3 minutes to respond and close. Go ahead.
Great. So I'd like to start off with my opponent's case first. So it's really important. My opponent brings up 2 really good benefits of PFML programs. But the ultimate problem is that these benefits are not unique to employee and employer pay systems. In fact, the majority of the cities that she brings up, New York and New Jersey, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., these places all possess PFML programs that are employee pay only, right? That's the link to the fact that my opponent's benefits aren't unique to her side of the resolution. They're going to exist on both the affirmative and the negative. And that's ultimately what my stance in today's round is that Colorado shouldn't establish a paid family leave program paid into by employees and employers. It should establish a paid family leave program paid into only by employees, right? So this brings me to my own case. And my opponent basically attacked the pandemic by saying that Proposition 118, which is what we're debating here today, won't go into place until 2023, right? So this is ultimately incorrect for one main reason. The tax will start in the 2021 fiscal year, but the program, people won't actually have access to the program until a year after that tax goes into place, right? So that's what my opponent is ultimately talking about. We won't see the benefits of it until 2023, but the tax is going to start earlier, and COVID-19 is not going to go away anytime soon. That is why my first point about implementing this program now still stands. The second, my opponent attacked my argument that it is harmful for small businesses. This is also incorrect as well for the core reason that employment is unfortunately up right now, but that means the competitiveness for hiring people isn't really there, right? My evidence my opponent provided is from pre-COVID-19 statistics, right? It's not relevant to where we are here and now. And so that is ultimately why my opponent's perceived benefit isn't actually going to exist for small businesses now. Now, Judge, I'd really like to hammer in on this idea of why the system should be employee pay only. Businesses are already under the burden of fulfilling the vacancy of a worker who takes PFML leave. They shouldn't also have to buy into a system they personally will never use. California, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. all have employee pay only systems because they agree. If Colorado were to implement a PFML, it would shape it like these 5 systems. That is the way to get all of the benefits of a PFML without hurting Colorado businesses. To illustrate exactly what I'm talking about, I would like to offer you the example of my dad's company. He is currently the CEO of Vital Care, a local small home healthcare agency. It has 12 full-time employees and around 100 part-time employees. His payroll every 2 weeks is $100,000. An additional 0.45 payroll tax would add up to $900 in additional expenses every month. This would push his barely 4-year-old company back under the line into being non-profitable. His story is also by no means unique. It is the story of thousands of small businesses in Colorado. In these dire economic times, we should be looking for ways to aid small businesses, not pile on expenses. An employee pay-only PFML would create the vital support net Coloradans need while simultaneously protecting our local businesses. Thank you.
Michael Dolph from Holy Family High in Broomfield. Finally, Talia Hart, 1 minute for your close on the pro side. Go ahead.
All right, so a paid family leave program deserves your vote because of its help to small businesses, women, fathers, and domestic violence victims. In my rebuttal, I explained that employers, particularly small business employers, are helped by paid family leave programs, and you should buy this for 2 reasons. First, a small business is going to have to pay less by paying $100 a year for employees who may get sick than by paying that whole salary. So that means they lose less employees. They don't have to fire their employees who get sick and need to take leave. And I cited you a specific statistic from the Center for American Progress saying it's less. The anecdotal evidence is fine, but you should really buy the actual evidence that I'm giving you. He also doesn't dispute the fact that 7 out of 10 small businesses in Colorado want this. But then the other reason you should vote for me is because of this idea on domestic violence victims. It's important that we're not putting the burden on these victims to pay for their own treatment. We're debating this ballot initiative, and if it passes, domestic violence victims get 14 times more leave and are statistically less likely to see injuries. And so that's a big reason to vote for this.
Talia, Michael, excellent debate, good study of the facts. Let's go to our panel of experts and get their thoughts now on what they saw. Dominic?
Alan, thank you very much. Talia, Michael, you both should be very proud of the debate you've offered, but your job is not done. We're here to ask you a couple questions. Omar, I'm going to go to you first. As an adjunct professor at the University of Colorado, Denver, you're used to being inquisitive with your students. So let's go for your first question for Talia.
Talia, Michael brought up a good point about small businesses and businesses sort of being double taxed because they have to fill the vacancy of that person that's being absent. How do you respond to that?
I would say that it's not unique. Right now, when an employee takes unpaid leave, they still have to fill that vacancy. And so what's either going to happen is they're going to have to fire the employee taking unpaid leave. And so that means they have to retrain a new employee, they lost a valuable employee, and they have less productivity, or they're just going to have to continually train people who take that unpaid leave. And so it's not really a new thing that's arriving.
Talia, my question for you comes down to the point where we're looking to establish a program that would tax both employees and employers of all shapes and sizes for something that seems, from your case, predominantly to help parents, young parents. Is that inherently fair that people that's not the majority of the population will be paying into a program that will predominantly benefit young parents?
So I would have a couple responses. The first thing I would say is I really focused on young parents because I think that those are the people who struggle the most from not having unpaid leave, or from not having paid leave, excuse me. But anyone who gets sick, someone who gets cancer, someone whose parents get sick or whose children get sick, or who has to take care of a spouse or loved one, they now don't have to risk unemployment to do that. And so it really helps everyone. Every single person is going to get sick in their lifetime or have a loved one get sick. So this is not some sort of, oh, it might happen for some people. Everyone is going to benefit from this at some point in some way.
Michael, it's your turn. Let's go to your first question from Omar.
You know, Michael, there were some great things brought up about domestic violence. Sometimes domestic violence is something that people don't pay attention to in the workforce. And under this paid family leave, women or men who are victims of domestic violence will have an opportunity to take that leave to either go to court, address issues with their family. What are your thoughts about that in your arguments as well? Because I didn't hear you address that in your initial statements.
So again, I think that's an instrumental benefit of a PFML program, right? The negative stance is, and I don't personally believe that we shouldn't have a paid family leave program. I think that Colorado should have one. The problem is the discrepancy between the affirmative and the negative is that the negative doesn't think that employers should have to contribute to that fund as well because they already have the burden of filling that vacancy when these unfortunate situations happen, right? So I believe that benefit, right, the benefit to people who are unfortunately victims of domestic violence is going to exist on both the affirmative and the negative side.
Michael, my question goes to your example about your father. I do not know about your father's business. I'm just going to make up some fictional terms here. But if he makes flux capacitors and widgets are a cost of the business and the cost of widgets go up, he's not going to simply keep the price of flux capacitors same. He's going to increase the cost of flux capacitors to take up the cost. So your employers in this argument, if they have increased costs, won't they just increase prices and therefore not incur the harms that you're talking about?
That's not actually the case, because for the most of the part, at least for the instance of my father's company, right? So he runs a home health care agency, and he's paid set rates by the state, right? So he actually won't have the opportunity to increase his prices, and that's the same case for several other small businesses that exist in Colorado, right? They might raise prices, but if they do raise prices, then that's a lose-lose for everyone as well, because then people are making less money because they're being taxed as well. Prices are going up from businesses to offset it, and then we have even less money that everyone has in order to get the services that they need. If that ultimately is true, then it's going to exacerbate the problem that I brought up in the first part of my argument.
Great points. Alan, I wish we had another half an hour just to figure out who won this thing. This is a great point. Give us a minute, see what we can figure out.
Yeah, this is why these are two of the top high school debaters in our state, tangling with a very difficult issue and doing it well. We're going to give our panel a moment to consider whom they felt won this debate. That'll give me a moment to let you know that we are wrapping up our semifinal rounds tonight. Starting next week, we will feature our championship and third place matches for both of our brackets. We have covered a lot of important issues in Colorado, so to catch up on any of the episodes, you can go to pbs12.org. All right, panel, I really don't envy you having to make a decision, but let's have it.
Talia, Michael, you both did a fantastic job. There are some legislators in Colorado right now that I think will be calling you at your schools because they want you to speak to the legislature. They've been trying to work this out for years, and you did a better job in a half an hour than many legislators have done for a long time. It is our job to come up with a winner, as difficult as it is. You both did a great job, but Talia, we thought your argumentation was superior. You both did great. Talia, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well done. Alan, back to you.
That was close. That was really close. We're going to go on now, Talia, to our consolation bracket. That's what's next for you, Talia. And Michael, we're going to see you in our consolation third place match as well. You both gave our viewers a wonderful debate tonight, and you both ought to be very proud of what you did. That's all we have time for our program tonight. I want to thank our excellent students for accepting our challenge and for participating in our debate. I also want to thank our esteemed panel for sharing their thoughts. And finally, we want to thank you for tuning in. It is the support of viewers like you and our sponsors that helps to make this show a reality. You can catch up on past episodes of this program at pbs12.org, and you can catch me on CBS4 for all the latest news and information impacting Colorado. For everybody here at PBS 12, I'm Alan Janae. Thanks for watching, and that is Both Sides of the Story.